Consciousness is not something exclusive to us as humans, for even plants themselves have their own consciousness and their own unique roles to play within this bigger story. This is Skull Babylon, and you're about to listen to episode 88 of Paradigm Shift Radio. On this episode, we welcomed on Scott Lite, a young ethnobotanist who has explored and worked amongst the indigenous cultures of Peru to learn about the variety of plants and their healing abilities. Following a bit of introduction, the topic evidently gravitated towards the specific interests of psychoactive healing plants and the psychedelic experiences they help induce when integrated with the consciousness of humans. Considering nothing is here by accident, it's an interesting topic to consider in terms of how these plants are playing a vital role within the collective spiritual awakening of people all across the world to help provide direct experiences and understandings of our place and our potential within this reality. Despite the abundance of conversation, without a doubt there is still always more to talk about, some of which was continued in the Conscious Conversation after party following this episode that we encourage you to check out. The links for that can be found through the main website at paradigmshiftcentral.com, where you will also find much more conscious media, including the new newsletter that we invite everyone to sign up for, in order to easily receive and share the latest updates and media within the evolving community. Paradigm Shift Central is a global project that we invite everyone to be a part of, so help share this content and more with your friends, be inspired, and be involved. Tune in again for future episodes of Paradigm Shift Radio, think for yourself, play it smart, and enjoy the flow. One love.
Plants, plants, plants. Which are good, which are bad. Plants, plants, plants. Ask your mom, or ask your dad. Or listen to Paradigm Shift Radio, which obviously you're doing right now, to get a little bit more bonus education than you might normally, to figure out a little bit more about some of the healing plants of the world, which is what we're going to be talking about here tonight on another educational and exciting episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. So, of course, thank you everybody once again for tuning in live. We have 32 users in the live chat as it is right now, which usually means that we have at least 3 times the amount of that tuning in who aren't in the live chat. But of course, we invite you to join in on the live chat. And of course, if I can get an 1111 from somebody in the live chat, one of you beautiful people, just confirm that things are sounding A-OK audio-wise, and we'll be moving along, getting rolling here with the conversation. And tonight on the show, there is the 1111. Thank you very much, guys. Tonight on the show, we're going to be talking about healing plants of the world with our good friend Scott Lite and his buddy Max. And really looking to just explore a wide variety of topics, a wide variety of conversation topics related to this theme. Obviously, we'll be talking about, just plants that may be overlooked, plants that maybe you haven't heard about, plants from other parts of the world that we have no idea about, yet each have a unique aspect to them that in some way are perhaps intended to be integrated with the consciousness and with the bodies of us as humans. I like the idea that plants themselves all serve a purpose. So tonight we're going to be learning a little bit more about some of the purposes of those plants. And of course, stay tuned later on the episode. We will be getting into the psychoactive discussion of the healing plant topic. And just learning a little bit more about that. So of course, like I said, thank you everybody for tuning in. And just a little introduction to this project. Those of you who haven't really tuned in before, you're listening to Paradigm Shift Radio, which is a branch of Paradigm Shift Central. ParadigmShiftCentral.com is a youth-initiated collective community of individuals and paradigm shift communities all across the world. Through the main website, you can find lots of inspirational conscious media there, and in particular, in terms of the new community news that I want to share with you guys, just earlier today, I released the first Paradigm Shift Central newsletter onto the show, onto the website, through the network, through the different communities that we have. And what this newsletter is a concise package that is delivered directly to your email, and it brings you up to speed on all the stuff that you would normally have to try and pick and find through all of the different feeds on Facebook. You have the Paradigm Shift Central feed and the Paradigm Shift Radio feed, whereas this email, this newsletter, is just going to make it a lot more accessible for us to be able to find all of the highlights within the Paradigm Shift conscious community, including the most recent Paradigm Shift Radio episode on YouTube and available on MP3, highlights for upcoming episodes, the latest inside the Paradigm Shift meeting videos, different community-created video content that's been submitted by all the awesome people within the Paradigm Shift community. And, of course, we invite other people to be able to submit their videos to the main website and to be able to contribute as content creators. And this is something where it's going to be able to help extend the reach of the entire network, of the information that is getting out there. So if you want to get synced up with this newsletter, and also it's going to update you on some of the newest paradigm shift communities that have emerged. So if you want to get synced up with this newsletter, which I'm incredibly encouraging, then all you got to do is go to paradigmshiftcentral.com/newsletter. So for the 27 people in the live chat right now, I definitely encourage you to go to that and check it out. And yeah, it'll be really cool to see the evolution of the community happening through the newsletter aspect of it. So I'm pretty excited to be able to share that with you. And yeah, I guess I didn't sorry, I didn't fully introduce myself off the top of the show tonight. Honestly, this daylight savings time is just it's putting like a little bit of a curveball on things, I swear. But anyways, for people who aren't familiar, I myself am Brendon, aka Skull Babylon, and you can connect with me at youtube.com/Skull Babylon. Check out a lot of the videos there, and facebook.com/Skull Babylon. And yeah, I'm your dedicated co-host for Paradigm Shift Radio. And in terms of other community news, of course, those of you who are familiar know that we have the funding happening right now for the Journey to Lucidity movie. And of course, you can go GoFundMe.com/Journey to Lucidity 2 to be able to check that out. And if you contribute $11, you will be able to get access to the movie before its official release online. So I'm really excited to be able to get some more support behind that. And that's coming up soon. I'll be going back out to the festival, to the Lucidity Festival in California in literally less than a month. I'll be going back out on April 7th. So if you want to see that movie early, if you enjoyed the first Journey to Lucidity movie, which you can find all online and watch for free, and definitely check it out if you haven't yet, then please support the sequel for that. And just in terms of other community news, of course, those of you who are familiar with the show know that we'll be doing a raffle for the shift buttons later on in the episode. Send a Facebook message to facebook.com/ParadigmShiftRadio to get involved with that, or just place an order for yourself at ParadigmShiftCentral.com/buttons at any time. Ask for a random order and ask for a random selection for your order, and use the promo code PSR to get bonus buttons with that. And I am shipping out to international communities now. So if you live in Australia, if you live in Europe, we're going to be shipping out to that direction. And yeah, just message me on Facebook if you're outside of North America and looking to get some shift buttons. So again, this is all stuff a lot of you are familiar with, but I'm really excited about the newsletter. So definitely you can check that out. Again, check it out through the main website, sign up, and share the newsletter. The newsletter is a nice little package that we can use to get more people invited with this paradigm shift community. So with that said, now that everybody's brought up to speed, we're going to get into what it is that you all came here for, and that's to learn about plants, learn about healing plants of the world. So with that said, we're going to get things moving along here by bringing on our good friend Scott. And Scott, he can introduce himself as I bring him on, but he's been traveling all over the world in terms of South America, and he specifically contacted me to be able to come on to the radio show to share the knowledge and the information that he has with the audience, with the community. So I'm going to bring on Scott now. So Scott, are you with us? Can you hear me?
Hey, Brendon, how's it going?
There we go. Doing pretty good, man. All right. Thanks for being on the show, dude.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Cool. So really just getting right into this. I mean, like I said, you were the one who contacted me about this topic, about wanting to share this information. So just in terms of introducing yourself to all the people of the internet, just who are you and what is it that you would like to share on the show tonight?
Well, I am Scott Lite, Lite. You guys can find me on Facebook. I do want to correct you on a couple things first. I haven't traveled all over the world. I've actually only been to the U.S. and Peru. That's it. That's the
South America, yeah.
two countries that I've been to, U.S. and Peru. And I also want to say, before we go any further, I'm not a professional ethnobotanist. I'm an amateur ethnobotanist. So this is my hobby and what I study. One day I'll be a professional ethnobotanist, but as of right now, I am not. So now that we got that out of the way, I do study ethnobotany, and I study plant medicine. And ethnobotany is the relationship between plants and people. So basically, any plant that people use for any reason, whether it's building their houses with wood from trees or using ayahuasca, those are all ethnobotanicals, and food and everything in between. So that's what I study, is the relationship between plants and people, how native peoples around the world perceive plants, and how they use these plants to make their lives better.
Right on, man. And I mean, really just sort of getting a better idea of who you are and what your drive was and what your passion was. Just take us back a bit. What was it that first got you interested in the ethnobotany, and when did you first travel to South America?
Well, I've been interested in plant medicine for quite a while. At first, I was very specifically interested in the psychoactive plants when I was younger, like maybe many of us are, and that passion for the psychoactive plants sort of led me to it ended up in a more scientific endeavor than just getting high, is what I'm trying to say. And I enjoyed learning about different plants used by different cultures. I've always been into going out in nature and that kind of stuff, but the psychoactive plants kind of led me to this path of ethnobotany, I must say. But it has greatly expanded outside that realm of just psychoactive plants and expanded to all plants that I'm really interested in. The first time I went to Peru was in 2010. I went with a company called the Botanical Preservation Corps, and they're a company that goes around the world. They collect plants and seeds from all over the world. They take them back and they grow them, and they preserve the knowledge associated with the plants themselves. So their traditional usage, how to use these plants as medicine, and basically that's one of the big points I wanted to make talking tonight is that that we're really the last generation that's going to see intact indigenous cultures that still carry on the ancient knowledge that our ancestors did. And once this knowledge is gone, it's gone forever. So that's the real message. If there had to be one thing I wanted to get across, it's the message that it's important to record this indigenous knowledge now, not 10 years from now, not 20 years from now, but absolutely right now, because we're the last ones that are going to see it the way it is now.
Mm-hmm. Cool, man. So yeah, just fill us in a little bit more. What was it that you did while you were traveling down to Peru?
I've been this next time will be my fourth time. I've gone every year since 2010 except for 2011. The last time I was down there, I spent 8 months, and I spent a lot of time in southern Peru, around Cusco. Maybe some of you have been to Cusco. A lot of international travelers go there to see Machu Picchu and all that good stuff. But I've also spent a lot of time in the jungles to the northeast of Cusco, sort of near the Brazilian border, not quite there, but near the Brazilian border in southeastern Peru, in the region of the Madre de Dios, or the Mother of God, is the name of the river that runs through it. And in the Menu National Park, there are many people living the indigenous lifestyle, much as they did thousands of years ago. And there are actually some uncontacted tribes in Manu to this day who, when I was there in 2012, 2 men were killed by the uncontacted tribe of the Mascapiros.
Oh, wow.
So that gives you an idea of...
Cool. And when you were making your way down to Peru, were you going down there with the intention to specifically learn more about ethnobotany? Was that really what directed you to there? What directed me there was the pursuit of indigenous knowledge in a form that's as pure as we can obtain it at this time. Now, you're not allowed, of course, to go and pursue the uncontacted tribes. That's actually illegal under Peruvian law. But there are many indigenous people in the Manu area who are recently contacted. So they're fairly primitive, again, a word I don't want to use, but I'm slipping on something more intelligent to use. But they're very much like they used to live, hundreds or thousands of years ago. They have machetes and they have motors on their boats and they have T-shirts, but other than that, they pretty much live like they used to. Yeah, cool. Cool, man. So, I mean, in terms of the knowledge that it is that you feel is valuable for sharing with an audience, is there anything in particular that you want to sort of start us off with? And then I know we can bring your buddy Max onto the show, who is actually traveling with you for a good part of it, from what I understand. But yeah, I mean, just sort of setting the stage for the whole topic of healing plants of the world. What is there that you can tell us, as if because from what you've told me, you do presentations about this. So if you were doing a presentation to people, what would be some of the key things that you'd want to get across?
Well, most of the time I go over specific plants, which is something I can certainly do. But as a broader idea, just the preserving of the ancient knowledge. and the fact that it is still going on today, and that there are still people today who carry out these ancient traditions. And there's people that heal themselves with plants. There's people that don't go to the hospital when they get sick. Definitely that is a general thing, but I can go into the specifics of a lot of the plants if you guys are interested in hearing that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that would be a really interesting thing, and of course, just reminding people in the live chat that if you ever have any particular questions, then just feel free to post them in the live chat or PM me through PM the Paradigm Shift Radio in the live chat, and we'll forward those questions on to Scott on the air. Anything that you might be particularly curious about, but yeah, let me know when you want to bring Max on. But if you want to just introduce us to what are some of the healing plants of the world, some of the educate on some of the things that we may or may not have even heard about.
Well, Peru and South America, Central America are a real hotspot for psychoactive and medicinal plant usage, and the people of these areas are still very much in touch with their traditional knowledge, whereas in America and Europe we're almost completely disconnected from our traditional knowledge about plants. But yeah, maybe we should bring Max on. That would be, and let Max introduce himself.
Sure. Let's do that. So let's bring Max on now. There we go. Hello, Max. You with us?
All right, guys. Hey, how's that sounding?
Pretty good, man. All right. Welcome to the conversation, dude.
Excellent.
Awesome. So yeah, go ahead, Max. Just introduce yourself and anything that you just want to mention off the top.
All right, so my relationship to Scott was I traveled with him, but I've known him for a couple years before that, hadn't seen him, and we just met up in Peru. We met up and kind of toward the southern and central parts of Peru, and really more of my focus was seeing the indigenous approach to psychoactive use, because as a Westerner, we don't really have any shamans that are around the corner, so it was kind of
which Max, maybe we can tell the story about how you didn't get exactly what you were wanting to achieve with experiencing the indigenous a traditional indigenous ceremony, let's say. But go ahead, finish your introduction.
Chavin?
Yeah, well, let's just talk about it. So me and Max went to a site in Peru near Huaraz, which is in the basically almost the center of Peru. And Chavin de Huantar is a ceremonial and a religious site. It's a temple. It's from about 2000 BC or 2500 BC. But these were the San Pedro using people, the Huachuma using people, and we can also talk about what that is exactly. But Max, go ahead.
Not only did they use Huachuma, but they also included Wilca, which is another very psychoactive visionary plant. And these people were very focused on the anthropomorphological aspect of what we can only assume was the experience. And that also fascinated me to see these carvings. Most people are familiar with Easter Island and the large skulls, or large heads there that are kind of bizarre. But there are other places in South America that have these interesting sculptures, and this is one of the places you can still go and see them, albeit they're removed and put in a museum not but 5 minutes away. But you
and I'll post a link in the live chat of one of these stone heads.
Yeah, they're really beautiful sculptures, and I'm sorry, I'm just fascinated by those alone. Back to the point, which was what we were doing there, and we went to this epicenter of an ancient tradition that has long since died out to see what remnants of traditional Huachuma were left, and we were directed to a local shaman. Not only there, but in other places, including Juarez, we were suggested the same individual. So we entrusted that this guy must know what's going on. We only came for a week, and we met with the individual, paid him some money. It seemed authentic. We asked him not to use a plant that had tropanes in it. It's the same plant that they give you to dilate your eyes at the eye doctors.
Right, which is Toei. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. We should explain what San Pedro is for the audience.
Right.
Yeah, Brendon, do you agree?
I mean, yeah, man. Like, you guys are sort of steering the ship as much as I am. So yeah, whatever you feel needs to come up to the surface. Yeah, by all means. But I mean, just kind of like stepping back. I mean, I'm really just fascinated, like I said, by the fact that every single plant seems to have some sort of use to it, you know, and even on the past episodes, how we've talked on numerous occasions, you know, and the most recent one would have been when we had Rak Razam on, when we were talking about his movie related with ayahuasca, Io Awakenings, and in particular, one of the things that I was really interested in was the idea that with the shamans of the Peruvian jungle, or even in other cultures as well, I'm sure, they would actually like go into deep meditative states, almost like, you know, as really deep, like whether it was induced with something or not would be kind of outside of the point. But when they're in these deep states of meditation, they were actually able to communicate with the consciousness of the plant itself, to be able to learn from the intelligence of the plant, to be able to learn what its role was within the relationship of humans. So I mean, that's something to keep in mind, is the idea that these plants themselves actually have an intelligence, actually have a consciousness to them. They are not just like something. They are actually like they have a personality. Yeah, they have a consciousness. They have a personality to them. So I mean, when you're talking, you know, as we evolve the conversation, when we get into like the psychoactive things, that definitely comes up. How the different psychoactive plants have their own personality to them. And again, with the ayahuasca, you hear about people talking about like the mother ayahuasca spirit and stuff. So I mean, yeah, just that's something that I'm totally just interested in, how like from the bigger picture of consciousness itself, as to how these tie in. Like, we think that we humans are so unique, we are so special, and not to say we're not, but I think we often underestimate the incredible intelligence of the plant community and the plant kingdom itself. But yeah, you're going to mention something, I guess, about San Pedro in particular. If you want to tell us more about that, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to explain a little bit about San Pedro and Toei, the two plants that were given to us by this sort of unscrupulous shaman. But before that, I would like to say something about what you're saying about the consciousness of plants. You get a very interesting answer when you ask the shamans in the Amazon, like how they discovered ayahuasca, which is the combination of two different plants, which one will just make you throw up and the other one will do nothing to you if you take them by themselves. But if you combine them, they create this magic. And the shamans, they give you two answers. They say either one, we've always known about it, which is a very unsatisfying answer. And then the other answer is the plants told us. So that's their answer about how they found out. So the plants literally spoke to them and told them to combine the vine and the leaves. But what I was going to say about San Pedro and Toei, so San Pedro is a Trichocereus pachanoi. It's a cactus that grows throughout the range of the Andes on the eastern slopes. And it contains mescaline, similar to what's in peyote. But this is the plant that was used by the people of Chavín de Huántar, and the plant that me and Max were seeking when we went to this place. Not specifically the plant, but a traditional ceremony with a traditional shaman using this plant. But as Max was saying earlier, and I'll actually let him finish the story, but I want to say that, so we were going to this guy to get San Pedro, but maybe some of you will have heard of Toei or Brugmansia or Datura, Jimson weed. It's in the solanaceous family. It's related to plants like mandrake and henbane and belladonna, the so-called witching plants or hexing herbs. And it's very dangerous, basically. So, all right, Max, you still there?
We specifically requested that
he not give us this plant.
Yeah, solo wachuma, sin Toei, which means only the cactus without the Toei, because to us, we're aware that this plant has severe cardiac problem. It can stop your heart, amongst other things. So if you were to have an experience, first of all, the last thing you want to think about is your heart literally stopping. That alone is just a
But much more likely than it actually hurting your heart. Much more likely than it hurting your heart is that you'll become extremely delirious and not know who you are or where you are or what you're doing. And he he wanted us to take it and leave his house
immediately as well.
So we said no to this. But we have plans next year, or I have plans next year to seek out some indigenous San Pedro Huachuma shamans. Huachuma is the Quechua name for San Pedro, in the north of Peru, which is a pretty rough place that not many gringos go. So we'll see how that turns out.
I guess, I mean, is there more to that story you want to share?
That's about it, right, Max?
It was it was a mutually awkward situation. And he essentially, when we first came there, we heard a loud noise in the background, which was a blender, and then he came out with what was obviously blended cactus with some fermented cactus juice in it, which was kind of extra tangy.
And we ended up paying a lot for this ceremony, and it was kind of cool.
Authentic.
Yeah, we got to hang out with him, and he played some music while he is brewing the San Pedro. But I guess the point of the whole conversation is if you are going to seek out indigenous plant medicine and stuff like that, you need to be very careful of unscrupulous shamans. And be careful of them giving you something that isn't what you asked for. Be extremely careful of that, specifically with this plant, Brugmansia or Datura or Toei, because it can kill you.
Yeah, and
it's actually a big problem with ayahuasca. Go ahead.
And this was a highly recommended shaman, and there was a man living at his house who was traveling to different medicine people's houses, learning what he could. And we were talking with him about this, and he was translating for us. He's more than trilingual. However, he ensured that there would be none of this plant. And for the most of the day, there was none until the very end. The shaman disappeared, and he comes back with a handful of the flowers, which are very ominous looking once you identify the plant and the ramifications of ingesting it. So he comes back with this, and we all just kind of like, oh no, what's he doing? And then we figure maybe he's just shaking pollen into it and blessing it or whatever. And we ask our friend, and he says there's no way he'd put that in there. He immediately submerges it with his hand down into the pot, splashing bits.
Huge amount.
Like way more than I would ever take or have ever taken or would even suggest taking to even like in a medical setting. It was just absurd. So obviously we did not drink it, but we already paid for this.
Yeah.
So at that point it's definitely worth the $150 just to walk away.
Sorry, remind me again. Maybe I just what was it that what was the actual ceremony with?
We were supposed to be taking San Pedro.
Just San Pedro.
He was trying to give us Brugmansia Toei, Jimson weed. Are you familiar with that plant? I
mean, San Pedro, but not the other ones.
The other one, it's the same name. I mean, it's different names for the same plant. That's why I was saying all the different names.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's really been used throughout the world, and it's used quite extensively. I'm sure some of your listeners know what it is. It's the Brugmansias are bell-shaped flowers. Yeah, someone in the live chat said Jimson weed and Brugmansia are not the same plant. That's correct. Jimson weed's in the Datura genus, and Brugmansia's in the Brugmansia genus. But the Brugmansias are white hanging flowers. They're sometimes red or orange. And then the Daturas are usually smaller flowers, and they have their flowers are turned up. But they all contain the dangerous and intoxicating alkaloids scopolamine and hiscamine. These are sometimes used to treat seasickness or nausea, but in higher doses they cause delirium and hallucinations that are indistinguishable from normal reality. So they're very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to, like you said, going back to just something we hit upon earlier, obviously things are sort of leaning towards as we were mentioning, the psychoactive healing plants of the world, and definitely just being able to remind people that, the interest in these should not just be related to people wanting to go, quote-unquote, get high sort of thing. So, I mean, my question for you guys is what value do you find that these plants serve when integrated with the human consciousness in terms of their healing ability? Like, how do
plants like like ayahuasca, like San Pedro, even something as simple as marijuana, which obviously more people are quite familiar with. How do you feel that things such as these, when used properly, benefit the human experience and help with the healing as it is?
Max, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, I was kind of lost in text of another conversation, but catching up briefly, the psychoactive properties can be minimalized into just being more aware of how an individual fits in the society that they exist in, and it might bring them to an awareness of a malfunction or a dystopic situation where they need to come back into harmony with something, and that might allow their less stressful life and a better feeling. It's just a feeling of well-being rather than to have some sort of stressor like that. So trivial things like that can be attributed to.
So I'd want to add a bit to that the Western mind especially can benefit from entheogenic or psychedelic plants because we're so disconnected from nature and from ourselves and each other, and that the entheogens, the psychedelic plants, they have for some strange reason, I can't find why all these the same plants, mushrooms, the same category of plants, entheogens, mushrooms, peyote, ayahuasca, they all have this similar effect of making us love each other and love the planet and feel blessed. And to me, it's really an amazing effect for a drug to have.
And beyond that, you said something that really sparked me about loving the planet and loving other people. This term recently came to me, biophilic, just life-loving. And that's one thing that I've taken away from it, the psychoactive properties, is that my everyday diet has evolved and become conscious. That in itself is responsible for a whole lot of health changes, leaving me probably a lot happier than I was, at least. And I can say that looking at a lot of other people, I would wish that they would treat their bodies with the same awareness or just some focus of the nutrients and what exactly they're doing, because a lot of them suffer from things that may just be their dietary intakes or lack of exercise or a sleep schedule. And these are all things that were sort of sculpted and cultivated by my relationship with these psychoactives. And I mean, I go times like a year without taking a visionary plant and still sustain these sort of diets, and it evolves. So going back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'll just jump in here. Just keeping an eye on the live chat, and of course, just shout out to everybody who's in there. We are keeping, if you have something to say, post it in there, and I'll share it on air. But specifically, Camille was just saying that just literally quoting him, the ceremony itself is a prelude to the healing that takes place. The plant allows the freedom, the ability to reach out. Ceremony is vital to this process. So, I mean, even just hitting upon there, and actually Jesse followed up right after that, and it almost tied in just what we were talking about in terms of what the value is of these psychoactive plants with our consciousness. And he said, deep interpersonal investigation by passing the daily filters of the subconscious in to explore our programming and the information beyond. Healing tools, yes. Healing, definitely not necessarily. You need intention. So even just reiterating what Camille was saying, that, I mean, for people to just be sort of like handed, even if it is just like something like mushrooms, and to just do it without an intention, they may not get the full healing or the full potential out of it when sort of used with just a more intelligent intention and stuff as well. I mean, that's kind of, I remember hearing like way back in the day, people were just like, oh yeah, like mushrooms make your brain bleed sort of thing, and you would hear about people.
That.
Yeah, you would hear about people like doing them at parties, and it would just like freak them the hell out, But yeah. I think with anything, when taken with the proper context, can be used as a healing, and that's where what I find useful with talking about this is the idea
that I think, yeah, like where these are useful is that they do offer that additional perspective. So, I mean, we live a large majority of our life seeing things from this sober, like base level reality perspective of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the term base level. That's kind of a term that I use to describe, like, you know, regular, ordinary reality. And then outside of that, you have non-ordinary reality, which would be anything influenced, even if it's by alcohol, so to speak, but in this case, talking about the psychoactives. Yeah. And even with something a lot of people are more familiar with, using something such as like the marijuana and the cannabis plant, something such as that, you know, say if you're like working on a creative process and you're working on something sober, and then you use this plant, using it as an ally, it helps provide you with that additional perspective on something. So you're seeing something from one angle, and then you see something from another angle, and it helps you see more of what is actually there. And it's interesting when you realize when you sort of are on these, when you are in these states of non-ordinary reality, and you question yourself, you're like, how the hell did I not see this before? Like what was preventing me from seeing this before? And it gets into this idea of these cultural illusions that have sort of been programmed into us that we may or may not even realize they're there. But yeah, if you guys just have some more ideas, even just intention or whatever, just bounce off that, go for it.
Well, that's exactly what you just said, intention. I wanted to say something about the nature of the ceremony. You know, you'll have all these people in the New Age community tell you, oh, you got to do a ceremony this way, or you got to do it with this shaman or whatever. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's all about intention. It doesn't matter what kind of ceremony you're doing. If you're in the Amazon doing ayahuasca with a traditional shaman, or if you're in New York City. I've heard recently that a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies apparently go on in New York City. I assume that's true. I don't know if it's true, but it doesn't matter the setting. It matters setting doesn't matter. It matters your intention mostly, though. It's not about having the right shaman or the right type of ceremony with the right kind of beads and, you know, blowing the right kind of tobacco smoke or whatever. It's about the intention you put into it. And that's one thing, you know, about Max that I admire very much, is that when he does any sort of ceremony, he takes the time, maybe even months or weeks, to go on a diet and to do all these very specific things leading up to it. You know, Max helped me a lot with my spiritual work on how to approach a ceremony, because he took it so seriously, and he approached it in such a way that was so respectful and would give you the maximum benefit, in the end. And Max, maybe if you could tell a little bit about like what you do to prepare for a ceremony and how you set your intention and stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's such a multifaceted thing, but it kind of stems from what a lot of people would call the diet or la dieta, which someone might suggest to you should learn about that if you're gonna do ayahuasca, because it's somehow relevant, and other people will tell you it's everything. But it is kind of everything, and it is kind of just beyond and outside of a ceremonial setting. It co-evolves with that, and for me it started with restriction from processed foods, fast foods, and then it kind of worked its way into like other things with dairy. And I mean, I'm not one to say, I have no expertise to tell you that my diet is correct or superior, but it seems to be working for me, and I'm really happy with it. And I wish I could afford all the foods that I'd want to eat, but that's a conversation for a whole other day, just trying to be healthy and live on a modest budget. So, but as far as intention goes, when you go through an experience like that, you're going to maybe go through an experience like dying. So you might want to get all the conversations that you'd want to have at that last moment of your life out of the way. Like call up your brother you haven't talked to in 2 years, because you're going to think that you're not going to get that chance again. And then once you get rid of all of these obstacles that you can address on your own, then the medicine allows you to see deeper things within yourself. And taking more of it without working on yourself consciously, eventually it's just going to smack you in the face, leaving you pretty confused, and then you're going to have to come back with a lot more respect and listen a lot harder. So
Yeah, like I mean, just going back to what Camille was saying, the idea that the healing, a lot of it takes place after the experience of working with the psychoactive substance. I mean, that is like the afterwards.
It's like
where,
climaxed in many ways.
Yeah.
Using the plant at that point, it brings it into a realization that can no longer be denied.
Yeah, where you realize that, like, holy shit, like, I have to make choices with my life, like, I need to do this rather than do that, or how the hell was I, like, why was I doing this when it's obviously, like, not in my best nature and it's not serving me. So it's also an opportunity to sort of let things go and then realize that, like, the next day when you, like, wake up in the morning, you have to follow through with making decisions that you are ready to make to change your life. Like, I like the idea that when working with a psychoactive plant, you should almost go into it with the idea of preparing to accept that everything may be wrong, and just taking that as broad as possible, sort of thing, because that may be the case for a lot of people, depending on where they are going into it. And even for myself with these, I mean, as rare as it is for myself, I usually I set a lot of intention towards doing it, in the sense that I want to make sure that I've cleared up things in my life going into it. I don't want to go into it like halfway through, if I have like a project that's half completed maybe, or if I'm like in a weird relationship with someone or something like that. Like, I want to be able to do it almost as like a celebration.
About listening to your intuition too.
That is
you have that voice in your head that says this is right and this is wrong, or it just says I'm not sure about this. And when you get that I'm not sure token, it's just time to reevaluate until you've come up with a proper decision. But if you're going to listen to that, and that's part of the diet, and that's like, it goes beyond food, and when I say diet, it's really just like how you live your everyday life.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to bring that point, but please continue.
Yeah, no, like I agree. Like I've mentioned that before, the idea of like spiritual diet or social diet. Yeah, like what is the way that you just, what are you taking in terms of either just like media, literally in terms of food, or even in terms of social scenarios that you put yourself in, sort of thing. So I mean, Scott, just passing it back over to you. Anything else you just want to throw in on this?
Yeah, I just want to say a little bit about the diet and sort of how the dieta has become sort of an obsession among the ayahuasca using gringo community, or the international ayahuasca community. I do want to say that the diet's important, but I actually think intention is more important. And I like what you said about it's not just your diet. And when I'm using the word diet, I mean food right now. But you said it's about everything you're consuming, the media you're consuming, everything. That's your diet. And when you think about it in those terms, I very much agree. But what I want to make very clear is that, go ahead, Max.
You as far as a personal relationship with these plants go, I seem to be noticing, and I've noticed other people sort of unplugging from mainstream, not just foods, again, the media. People pay less attention. So please continue.
Yeah, I just want to say that everyone should understand when we talk about the diet and it's important and stuff, it is. However, you're not going to die if you eat some kind of cheese before your ayahuasca ceremony or something like that. You're not going to have a massive hypertensive crisis because you drank a cup of coffee 2 days ago before your ayahuasca ceremony. So I just want to make that clear that while the diet's important in setting the intention and stuff, and certainly with psychoactive drugs, that's a different story. You could mix some psychoactive drugs with ayahuasca and it would hurt you. But as far as foods go, I don't think really there's any way you can hurt yourself by eating certain foods and then taking ayahuasca. And the issues with the MAOI, the monoamine oxidase inhibitor, which you'll find all kinds of information about the diet on the internet and what not to eat. But I would say that nothing's really going to hurt you unless you try to hurt yourself and eat a bunch of it or something.
I mean, you'll definitely notice if you eat certain foods, like if you eat a heavy meat and cheese diet, let's say fondue right before ayahuasca, you're not going to feel as great as if you'd been eating rice. And I do want to say that puking was not included in that little
Oh, yeah.
You might throw up way more if you're eating meat and that kind of stuff, meat and cheese. But as far as any sort of like medical emergency, I don't think any food can actually cause a medical emergency from taking ayahuasca with a certain food.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, you know, we've touched upon ayahuasca, and maybe we'll have to talk about it more, even just talking about some of the like sort of the showcase psychoactive plants that are out there that people may be more familiar with. But like that is one thing that people will hear, is the idea of you know, before you go into an ayahuasca ceremony, that they do suggest that you go in with a cleaner diet, so to speak. And my understanding of this, and then actually Mother Moonlove in the quote in the live chat, just to quote her as well, she said the idea of detox before the trip for a smoother ride. And I think that is what it comes down to. I mean, you know, in the same way that if you're planning to like play a hockey game, or if you're planning to go do something athletic, you're not going to have like a big like bowl of poutine right before you do that, because it's just going to bog you down. So I mean, if you do want less distractions and more of what the trip actually is, then like go in with a cleaner system. And I mean, I think that's where, I mean, I haven't experienced ayahuasca myself personally, but I mean, if I were to do that, I would go in wanting to have the best experience possible, and to go in with a sense of like maturity and humility as well, to say that, you know, like I want the ayahuasca to be able to reach me like as much as I'm capable of reaching it, sort of thing. And to like not treat myself appropriately going into it would almost be like an insult to the mother ayahuasca, because then she would have to like use some of that attention to involve itself just in like the purging. But again, like not to say the purging wouldn't happen either way. Maybe that would be something that you guys would want to talk about, like how within ayahuasca ceremonies, how, you know, people drink the tea and then it's like this 6-hour psychoactive experience, and within that time people often are purging, they're throwing up, or they're even crapping their pants. What do you guys get out of that? Yeah,
purging is a pillar of indigenous spirituality. It's the ultimate detox, and outside of ayahuasca, it's practiced by other people and tribes.
Especially in the New World.
Yeah, go on with Gaiusa and the Ilex genus.
Okay, well I can do that, but as Max was saying, purging, I just wanted to make the note that purging is very specifically important among indigenous cultures of the Americas, all the way from North American Native Americans who are now almost extinct, although they're not. There's still some, especially in the western U.S. and in Canada, that still remain, and Mexico. But for the most part, North America, the natives have been greatly decimated. But the point is that purging is common in many of these Native American cultures, and actually in the Carolinas, where I'm from, there's a plant called Ilex vomitoria, and Ilex vomitoria is like it sounds with the last name. It was a plant that was used to make you puke. It was the Yapon or Yopon holly. It's in the holly genus, the Ilex genus, and it contains huge amounts of caffeine along with tannins and a lot of other chemicals. But the Native Americans in North Carolina and South Carolina and along the coast down to Florida and over to Texas, they would use this plant daily as just sort of a tea, a coffee kind of thing in the morning. But they would also use it ritually from time to time when it was known as the black drink. And they would boil this plant down, this holly plant down, and make a very thick, syrupy concoction, almost like ayahuasca in consistency. And then they would drink it, and they would projectile vomit everywhere. And if you were a tough young man, you could puke the furthest. You could, puke further than anybody else.
It's very embrace the purge. It's not something to be
it's good.
To look away from.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, in a way, it's almost as if we attract negativity, or that like the stagnancy of energy just kind of stops in you, and every now and then you just need to refresh and get it out of you. And so these ceremonies, even if they accomplish nothing other than a placebo of cleansing the mind, that mental cleanse, really, it's the intention again. The intention, because you've intended it to clean you, you've now enabled your body to work its fantastic, miraculous healing abilities even further. So just to brush upon intention.
Yeah. I mean, that's even, part of the thing that I find incredibly fascinating is that when people talk about these plants, like oftentimes the plants themselves are just like activating parts of ourselves, so to speak. So, even when I wanted to talk more in particular about psychedelic mushrooms in themselves, because I was going to ask that. I mean, like, are mushrooms considered a plant, so to speak, and even just like what you guys sort of think of them? Because I mean, even just the like the actual chemical compound of like the psilocybin is so similar to like the natural chemicals already found within our brain, even like the DMT. Like it's all very simple and very similar. But yeah, if you guys have more to educate, please fill us in.
Well, I'll say real quick a couple things about mushrooms, and I'll hand it over to Max because he can talk about the relationships between the chemicals between serotonin and dimethyltryptamine and psilocybin, how they're very closely related. But I want to say that actually the fungi kingdom is more closely related to animals than it is plants, which someone just said in the live chat. So yeah, they're actually they're closer to animals than they are plants. And Paul Stamets, he's an amazing mycologist, and if you haven't heard of him, I encourage you to Google his name. I'll post his name in the live chat. But Paul Stamets is one of the men that's saving the world with plants. He proposed a new I can't think of the name in taxonomy, but basically a new group, maybe it was a new kingdom that would have combined fungi and animals into one super kingdom, not separate them, because he says the fungi and the animals are so closely related that they should be in one group and the plants should be in another. So Max, maybe if you want to talk about the relationship between the different chemicals and the similarity and what effect that has. I have to use the bathroom. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Go for it. Go ahead.
Okay, Brendon, can you give me a refresher on the point again here?
Well, I mean, even just talking about just the mushrooms themselves, the psychedelic mushrooms. I mean, again, I'm just absolutely fascinated by them. Even just like the fact that the mushrooms connect very similar to a neural network that we see within the brain, which obviously, people who have tuned in before, you hear the similar idea of the microcosm and the macrocosm. But that in itself, I mean, I've read.
You're referring again to the mycelium, right?
The mycelium grid. Like, yeah, the idea that if you get mushrooms in a forest, it's not like it's just one mushroom by itself, but actually they connect underground and oftentimes form into either large groups of mushrooms, if not one entire mushroom for a local area.
Well, the mushroom is the fruiting body of this underground network. And this network, not only does it sustain itself, but it has inner relationships with the different biospheres it's related to. And so it'll help deliver nutrients to neighboring plants, just to become more symbiotic and prolific and sustain its ultimate evolutionary goal of reproducing. So it's intelligent in a way that, it definitely has some sort of awareness that is beyond ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one idea that I've actually played around with, and maybe I'll have to repeat this when Scott gets back, unless he's on. Scott, are you? 1 second. Scott, are you back? Is that? I can hear you running down the hall, I think. Is he back yet? Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. No, man. I was just gonna say, to me, like the mushrooms in themselves, they almost seem like otherworldly to me. Like I've almost had this idea that mushrooms are like something that came from another planet,
like
and like
panspermia,
or like they were on like an asteroid and like came to Earth from somewhere else or something. But I mean, but go ahead. Yeah, that idea. It's it reminds me. I think maybe Terrence McKenna said it. Maybe
you got it. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, he proposed that the spores of psilocybin-containing mushrooms could travel through space because of their certain properties.
Ultraviolet color is not it's immune to sort of rays that would break things down, so they have this infinite shell that they're sort of encapsulated in, and they have the ability to travel. And the interesting thing about some fungi is that they require nothing but radiation to live off of, which is extraordinary compared to everything else in our life.
Correct. There are some species of fungi that, if there were enough radiation, they could live without the light of the sun. So that's interesting.
That definitely is. And I mean, even just stepping back a bit, because going into this conversation, we were talking, and we just the broad topic itself is healing plants of the world. Yeah. And again, healing, this is, we still are within the framework of the conversation here, because these plants are healing the consciousness of the world. So I mean, it brings up the question of how are psychoactive plants helping change the world? Maybe just sort of if we can just focus in on that question again, and I know we've touched upon it, but literally just putting that right back to you guys. How do you feel that psychoactive plants are helping heal and helping change the world?
Scott, you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say the same thing basically, but it's our reconnection with with Mother Nature, with what they would call in Peru Pachamama, Mother Earth.
We can list some specific examples too of modern use of hemp because of the expanded marijuana and legalization of marijuana, and that's sort of an example of we've come back into a relationship with this plant, and not only do we have this spiritual or mental effect from it, but we've employed it in our daily lives.
Well, and I really think that this time period that we're alive in right now is a very special time period. It's the time period that we realize that we cannot please ourselves simply with material possessions, that the spirit has to be part of our consciousness, or we will not be happy and thrive like we should. And not only that, but that will destroy the planet that we're living on if we don't accept, that we are part of nature and part of the planet.
Instead of just dominating it and taking its resources and burning them up.
We're squashing this masculine ego that has. Go ahead.
We're feeding our children by starving our grandchildren, to misquote some Indian meme.
Yeah, I really think we're reconnecting with nature, and we're reawakening our spirit. The revolution in the 60s, the psychedelic and sexual revolution of the 60s was just a precursor to something that's much, much bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, for even from my own personal experiences working with these aspects of the psychoactive plants, I mean, like I was saying, I mean, people, the plants are external, but they're activating something that's internal. And from what I've sort of broken it down to, from my own understanding, and I've talked about this on the show in the past, is that the human body is specifically designed to have a variety of filters functioning 24/7 in order for us to be able to walk through everyday life, in order for us to be able to drive our cars. Yet as soon as we start peeling back these filters, we start to see a more real version of what reality actually looks like. And what reality actually looks like is far more psychedelic than what many of us are commonly used to or commonly aware of. And I think that is where even working with these psychoactive substances, that's where they're very valuable, because they do sort of just reveal the incredible awe and wonder that this reality already is, yet we commonly sort of overlook because we're so used to seeing it with these filters on. And literally, it goes back to the idea that there's no such thing as empty space. And when you start pulling back the filters with some of the substances, and that's actually where I want to take this conversation into, is that how do these different substances actually affect the filters in different ways? I'd be curious to get your guys' responses on that. But I mean, awesome. as you get into that, you realize that with some of these substances, you can actually see the vibrating energy that is everywhere, or you can see the fractalated tendril of the sacred geometry that is unfolding light. That from my own experience, when I was in that state, I was like, holy shit, this is the code of the Matrix, and this is real. I'm not quote unquote hallucinating. What I'm actually seeing is right in front of me, and it's more real.
Yeah.
And the best and the most exciting part about all of that
for me was the fact that it felt familiar. I was like, holy shit, like I already knew this, and here I am.
Home.
Like coming home.
Yes, and that ties you in with this spiritual awakening that it's just like we are more than a physical body. Like we have come from somewhere else. We have given ourselves amnesia, and when we realize that we are more than that, it's so empowering. So again, like for putting the question, how or if you guys are just going on that, I'll just put it out there. You guys know where I'm going with this, but any response on that?
Oh wow, I
want to let Max talk about that. But first, I want to say something. I just want to say how you know, and this is maybe not directly answering your question, but I know Max has something good to say about this, and I want to say it before I forget. But my personal belief is that these plants are they're here for interspecies communication. They're here for communication between the world of the plants and the mammals. You know, the fact that these chemicals interact with our nervous system in such an amazing way, to me, signifies that they had some sort of purpose and they were intended to be used. But that's what I wanted to add. But Max, go ahead. I know you have something to say.
Well, I'm like really focused on where reptiles fit into that situation. But going back, Brendon, I almost want to call you Skull again.
Whatever.
But yeah, I want to call it almost like each plant or teacher sort of has like a language about it, and you're talking about with certain things you can see it's different things, and like people can become more familiar with a specific teaching plant and sort of grow their attunement to it and see further with that thing, and that's, I don't know, I personally am fascinated with cactus, and that's why I go to Peru, and that's why I'm going back to Peru, and for me it does what you're talking about. It pulls these layers back and allows an interface with a almost like a super reality that seems to be manifestation of metaphysical string theory, yet multi-dimensions coexisting at the same time, and it's almost as if we're stopping looking at reality from a four-dimensional view, second to second, and we become more aware of the fourth dimension and perhaps even beyond it. And so concepts that would require a person time to achieve, time dilation is hugely talked about.
Yeah.
But you can go through life experiences that may not be your own and extrapolate meaning that you may not have lived, and you take this meaning with you, and that's just awesome to me, because it doesn't matter if it's a dream or not. When you enter a dream, you don't all of a sudden say, hey, it's a dream, I'm going to do whatever I want, and like do all sorts of terrible things that are just contraband to real life. You take the moral like compass with you. So even if these experiences aren't necessarily real and you're just drooling in a tent somewhere in the Andes, it doesn't really matter, because you're going to come out of that tent and you're going to have these experiences that augment you as a person and enrich you and give you compassion to others in the species. And it is not only for interspecies communication, it's great for our species communicating. It allows a person to really open up and break down barriers. And that's what I was talking about, how they fit into society and having issues with family, friends, coworkers, things like that. And it allows you to address these malfunctions. Sorry to take it so heavily.
yeah, Max would always tell me when I was fighting with my girlfriend, oh, y'all just need to eat some cactus together.
Yeah. No, I mean, even I think I read it in like a book with Alex Gray. I mean, that was actually a story. Alex Gray, visionary artist. Many of you are familiar with him, or just Google his work if you haven't seen it yet. But part of his story was that like he actually met his wife when both of them were on LSD at a party together. And he said that there's nothing quite like watching the walls melt together to fall in love with another person, sort of thing, which I just thought was sort of beautiful. But I mean, that is a very interesting topic in itself, is like how when two people or more are in a group, how they can bond over a psychedelic experience, and even the idea of specifically getting into conversations where telepathy actually
I want to
occurs.
Just throw Shipibo right in there so we have something to focus on. Cultural synesthesia that's experienced by multiple people at the same time. In many different ways, there's examples of this. Now, I assume this is where you're going, was it not, Brendon?
Well, I was just going to talk about being psychic on mushrooms, to be honest, but...
Let me tell a little anecdote really quickly about Richard Evan Schultes has an account when he was in the Amazon that he did this ceremony with a tribe in the Amazon. I'm not sure exactly who it was, but and he confessed during the ceremony. It was an ayahuasca ceremony. He confessed all these secrets, all these sexual secrets, and all these horrible things he had done. And then when he was talking to people in the tribe the next day, everyone seemed to know all these terrible things he had done. And he'd only told one person. He went and asked the guy very angrily, "Why did you tell everyone all this stuff I confessed to you?" And the guy just said, "Oh, well, we were all on ayahuasca. I thought you knew that everyone would know when you told me." So there was some sort of telepathy going on among the community, was the implication.
Yeah. And when I immediately jumped to Shipibo, it's a very common pattern that people immediately pick up is like, oh, that's ayahuasca art. Well, the women of the tribe are responsible for the creation of the as far as I know, and I could be totally wrong. I have not actually been there, but they can they sing and make images, and it's a pattern that just goes on forever. They say it's the skin of the great anaconda, and they describe that this anaconda sort of like flows through space, and like I mean, we could get really mythological as to like how we're seeing the skin is that's our reality, and but they can sing, and they translate this tune that's understood into a certain pattern, and I believe it's quoted somewhere that a woman on either side of a pot can continue a pattern the same on each side by simply like humming a similar tune. They end up drawing the same thing synchronously around it. So back to you.
Yeah, I mean, even just, what I was talking about with the filters, how these things do tend to pull back the filters. One of those filters is whatever it is that's preventing us from being psychic all the time, it seems, because that is a topic that I've always been fascinated by, or rather the simple idea that if being psychic can happen at all, then what's preventing it from happening all the time? And I mean,
you can't pick and choose, though, and that's why it's off. Because you wouldn't be able to function. You can't pick and choose the psychic good parts. You'd be stuck with purple banana transforming bulldozer, as well as, hey, ecologically we need to clean up our act. Yeah. But like you need to, and the guy who wrote Tickle and Pickle with Shulgin, he said, it'd be really hard to survive if you're admiring the spirals on the saber-toothed tiger's fang.
Yeah.
So we have these receptor sites, but we don't always have the endogenous substance readily available, and for whatever reason that may be, it's still a mystery to us. Yeah. So, and then it's your theory from here, and I go with it. It's really hard to survive if you're like kind of out there all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think, understanding that, like I said, I think the value in this is understanding that it is possible. And then the idea is that, like, can we start to become more psychic without the psychedelic experience, without the external use of these psychoactive substances? And I mean, even, just reminding people, of course, we here at Paradigm Shift Radio are not advocating that you use any of these illegal substances, but we are encouraging the discussion about it, and also encouraging people to obviously pursue the path that doesn't involve any of these psychoactive substances. And that's where you get into the idea of exploring deeper states of meditation and getting into lucid dreaming, because I mean, lucid dreaming is a very psychedelic experience in itself, and that's where you get into the conversations that like there are parallels between the psychedelic realm and the dream realm, and that's where you can get into the chemicals of the brain. And I will say I do want to get into that. What I'd actually like to do before we get there is to be able to bring on a caller onto the show. And I haven't really prefaced it with the opportunity for people to call in, just because I know there'd probably be a lot. But Taylor, who is on the line, actually went ahead, and I know she's got a story that she wanted to share. And we're going to do that. But, of course, just reminding people, we got 48 people in the live chat as it is. So with still more conversation to go in the show, please just reshare this link on your Facebook profiles or whatever, and just tell people that they can tune in now or listen to it later, just to get more people involved. And of course, just reminding people that if you want to get involved with the draw for the free shift buttons, I'm just going to do this reminder and then one more right before we do it. If you want to get in the draw for the free shift button, send a message to facebook.com/paradigmshiftradio, or you can order them through the main paradigmshiftcentral.com website. And, of course, those are buttons to use to help plant seeds and assist in the awakening of consciousness where you are by using the symbolic imagery on them to spark conversations and make new friends. So, again, I just wanted to thank everybody for being a part of this show. It's a really good conversation. We will see where it goes. I do want to be able to potentially talk about the non-psychoactive healing plants of the world, but obviously there's a lot of energy and popularity when we get talking about the psychedelic and psychoactive plants, because I think they're so interesting. There's something just so outside of the normal 9-to-5 workday that we sort of get when we start talking about these. It's really sort of that kind of paradigm shifting stuff. So again, just reminding you to please share the show with your friends and definitely check out. And so we'll go from there, and we'll bring on Taylor, and we'll see if anybody else really wants to call into the show. I'm not going to stop you. So if you want to share a quick story, like a quick trip report, if you want to call it that, like how working with a psychedelic substance or a psychoactive substance has helped change your life in a positive way, then by all means feel free to call in and we'll see what we can do. So with that said, we're going to bring on Taylor, and we're going to go from there. And this is Taylor Dillon, I believe, or Dillison, and she's actually fairly new to the paradigm shift community, and I know she posted up in the discussion group earlier today how she was out giving out, she was like singing and dancing on a street corner trying to give out free hugs, and the cops thought that she were on drugs, but maybe she'll tell us a bit about that too. So Taylor, if you're ready, we're going to bring you on to Paradigm Shift Radio. Here we go. Hello, Taylor.
Oh, yay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Okay. First things first, Dylan, how do you get Dylan out of that? It's
that was
not that I care.
Yeah.
Dollison, yeah.
Sorry, Taylor, can you speak a little bit louder just before you get going, if you can?
Yeah, no problem. My voice is kind of raspy today. It's been a long day.
Yeah, singing.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I'll make this as brief as possible. I didn't realize you weren't really planning on people calling in this episode, but I've been wanting to talk to you and at least talk to other people and get their opinions as well. So I'm 19 years old. I'm about to turn 20 on April 21st, which, if you're not aware, is the 111th day of the year. So that in itself is kind of awesome to me. So all I can remember for the most of my life is being depressed, a very depressed child. My first memory is screaming down the aisle being baptized at my Christian church. That's the only memory I really have, vivid memory from childhood I have. So that says a lot in itself. So all my life I've never really believed in God in that sense. I've always wanted to believe in something. I moved out to Denver, Colorado in November of last year to pursue a live-in nanny job that ended up changing my life. I saw the way that this family used religion as more of a spiritual guide for their children rather than a set of rules you have to follow. And I started, I've always been depressed, so I started working out, eating healthier, being more conscious of my thoughts, and just saw a dramatic change. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and we ate mushrooms together, which was a very bad idea to do it with him. And most would probably consider this a bad trip after I explained to you guys everything that happened. But in my eyes, I'm just continuing to learn more and more each day about this week of my life. So I ate some mushrooms, only a half-eighth. I wasn't going crazy. It was like the third time I ate them, so they always say third time's a charm. And all I recall is just having an urge to be outside and in nature. And I remember just sitting next to this tree and looking up into the sun and just physically feeling the oneness of everything. And I remember thinking, I don't care if a freaking bumblebee comes up and swings me on the arm right now. Like, I feel so alive. And I ended up taking that happiness and aliveness, and it ended up turning into mania for the next week. And the way I describe it is I just ended up tripping for like a week thereafter, and I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating, I was simply surviving off water for, I'm not kidding, a week. And so I finally called the cops on myself and said, I need help, I'm going crazy. So I got checked into a psych ward. I've been diagnosed bipolar. And I ended up, this is kind of my mission in life, is I ended up in a hospital when I moved back home to Omaha, Nebraska, and the doctor told me, you are bipolar. Unless you take these pills, you will not get any better. And so I said, okay, challenge accepted. And so that was this past summer. And ever since then, the one thing that just did it for me is positivity, like changing my thoughts. But as of lately, I just posted a status about it actually, and my father, who's very modern medicine, I guess, oriented, he said, once you start feeling like you have psychic abilities, it's time to step back and reassess. And lately, my senses have been freakishly accurate and freakishly, like, sensy is the only way I can say it. I don't know, I just feel like that trip just awoken me to life. And, yeah, so, I don't know, guys. I'm a little scatterbrained, but that's all I got.
No, I mean, I think that does encapsulate a lot of the experiences that people have, like with the mushrooms. Definitely, I mean, you're right. It brings in this sense of oneness, which in itself is sometimes hard to put into words, but I think it's amazing that it's there to begin with. And I remember that too myself, where I would just I would look at things that previously I would have walked past. I'll go and stand in front of a tree and I'll look right into the bark and I'll be like, oh my God, there's little tiny bugs in there. Like, I didn't know that. Like those things are alive. Like things like that sound just as a joke, but it just helps put things into perspective. But yeah, go ahead, Taylor, if there's more that just how it affected you. And
yeah, just I don't know, I was never a talkative person. I always had body issues, and I'm going to be straight honest with you, I'm like skin and bones, so I don't know why I ever had any of these just stupid issues. And it's just a miracle to me that I cured, so to speak, my mental disorder that all these doctors told me, you need to shove these pills down your throat, or he literally said to me, or you will never get better. And so that's just my message here is as far as mental illnesses go and stuff, you don't need any medicines, you don't need any psychedelics, you don't need weed, all you need is you can do it all in sobriety, and that's kind of what happened to me. But I wanted to talk about today too.
What's that, Taylor?
I said I wanted to talk about what freaking happened today too.
Yeah, I'm curious. Go ahead, tell us a bit about that.
Okay,
and then Max, you can jump in a second. Go ahead.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's cool.
I'm
so interested.
Anxious. It's my first time.
This is fun.
Okay. So today, this morning, I woke up. Last night was just a very life-changing night in itself as far as my personal life goes. So I woke up and knew it was going to be a life-changing day, and I walked to the bus stop. Or first, I walked in the morning. I walked a mile just to go. You guys cannot judge me for this, but I did get a McGriddle for breakfast this morning. I'm pinching pennies, and it did what I needed it to do. So once I got the money back on point, I'm going to start eating organic again. But I did eat a McGriddle for breakfast. But it started my day off great. So then I'm getting on the bus, and I'm waiting for this bus, and I'm talking to the guy, and it's taken way longer than usual. Come to find out, it doesn't even run on that day. So I was just waiting for no reason, but the reason was because I started talking to this guy, and I don't remember what even sparked the conversation. But like I said, my senses have been very on point lately, and I sensed for some reason that he would completely understand me. And actually, I added him on Facebook today. I tried to get him to look up paradigm shifts and stuff. So I think the two of us might actually be able to start something up here in Omaha. So I was just like, sir, do you believe in numerology at all, the significance of numbers and stuff? And it's the only thing I brought up about spirituality. And I said, because I was born on the 111th day of the year, and I think that signifies something. And he was like, that's so weird. 111 is my number. 1111 is my number. And so we just got to talking. And then after that, this lady came up to me, this older African-American lady, and she was just talking about the 55, the bus I was trying to get on. And she was the one that actually informed me that it doesn't come on Sundays. And so we were just laughing about how stupid that was. And then so I ended up getting on the 15 with her as well. And before we got on the bus, she was telling me about how she's a minister. And I was like, well, okay, what religion, I guess, is my question for most people to see if they're actually, I guess, on the same page as me as far as religion goes or spirituality, because if she was going to tell me a religion, I wasn't going to really I would listen, obviously, but so she said she's not a religion, and so I said, okay, that's awesome. And she started talking, and she was just like, all I need is this Bible. That's like this is my only book I ever need to read about God. And telling me, she called me crazy. She told me I'm going to end up in jail because I was harassing her on the bus when all I was simply doing was listening. And I ended up, the one thing that sent her over, I stopped talking to her and anything, and then I wrote on a note, because I leave notes everywhere, little positive messages everywhere lately. And so I wrote on a note and gave it to her that said, could you be more loving than you already are? And I handed it to her and just walked back to my seat, and she got immediately irate and took it up to the bus driver and was like, this lady's harassing me. Do you see what she just wrote on this note? And I was just shocked. Like, are you kidding me? It says talking about love, and that's harassment. So that happened. So I met, like, the angel and the devil all at once. I'm not saying she's the devil, but it was like a good and a bad, so to speak, if you will. And so that was definitely life-changing. And then I just decided to go back home, and I was just as I was walking home, like, that lady just changed my life, because for once in my life I was able to look at her with compassion rather than frustration. And I just prayed to God. I told God, like, please help me. I hope I had an impact on this lady's life at least a little bit, because she was just talking down on me because of my age and, like, telling me I need to be quiet and respect her and listen to what she's saying, when at the same time she wouldn't let me get 2 words in without interrupting me. So it was definitely an experience. And so after that I was just feeling I just really wanted to spread love. What I wanted to do with my day. It was, for once, it was beautiful in Nebraska. It was 60 degrees today, sun was shining, so I started singing from my bedroom window at first, and, like, people would wave and look at me, and these people actually ended up coming over and were like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I'm just happy. Thanks for asking, though. And so then after that, I decided to put on my free hug shirt and go stand on the corner, and so many people were just, like, laughing and smiling. Like, I could just sense the positivity, and, like, they got it. They understood what I was doing. But then at the same time, probably 80% of the people that drove by were either laughing at me or just, like, giving me rude looks. And it didn't stop me, because those other people just kept me going. I sang my heart out, and I've never been a singer, but I've always known it's been a passion. So it was just empowering to be able to just belt it out and not give a care in the world what anyone thought. And the encouragement and feedback I got from even the few people that did was just life-changing. And so then eventually these cops showed up, and I was like, please don't tell me you guys are here for me. And he said, well, we got a report that there's some lady on drugs on the street corner. And I was like, oh, my God, I've been that lady on drugs on the street corner before, and I assure you that's not me this time. And so, yeah, it was very disappointing, I guess, for my community, as far as I thought we were a little more awakened than apparently we are. So I'm determined, for the time I spend in Omaha before I get out of here, that I'm going to definitely try and start some awakening while I'm here. That's all I got. I'll stop rambling.
Cool. No, that was cool. I mean, again, just kind of stepping back and reminding people that, like, this whole paradigm shift community is about encouraging people to take action where they are, and whether that is something as simple as engaging in a conversation with a stranger on a bus, but definitely going outside of our comfort zone to, like, plant those seeds of love and to, like, be that, like, flux in the field of the matrix to be able to get people to sort of question. And if you can do it from love, then it definitely helps, and it does make a difference. So I mean, I commend you, Taylor, for doing what you did, and yeah, like, I'm looking forward to being able. I know our buddy Dave wants me to specifically send some shift buttons to you, so we're gonna get some shift buttons to you for sure. And
God,
I mean,
that made my heart
that's
so
gonna
happy.
be sick. And then you'll have something to give people on a corner.
Yeah, I'm so excited for what the future holds. All right, guys, I'll let you get on. I'll keep listening though.
If you want to just stay on for a second, because I think Max had something to share. Because I mean, I think maybe I don't know if I'm just reading Max's mind on this, but what I was sort of leaning towards was the idea of, like, why are these psychedelic substances, like, why are these healing plants illegal within culture? That is a very interesting thing, when they obviously can provide these beneficial results. But I mean, I think there's obvious answers to that. But Max, I mean, or I think it was.
Yeah, I have a.
Go ahead.
A couple of thoughts here,
in general,
real quick. When you were talking about these healing plants being illegal or necessarily contraband to, like, or illicit, whatever, and there's numerous examples of these plants that have like held people. One I'd like to point out is the plant iboga. Tabernanthe iboga. It's from Africa. Has incredible success when dealing with opiate addiction, and I know that that's an epidemic in the youth of our country currently, and probably in other places of the world. But this plant has such remarkable responses with it. The relapse rate is, I don't want to misquote it, but it's absurdly low. And I encourage you to do your own research. Yeah, I'd encourage you to do your own research on it and look into it. But what's really bizarre is there's these government-funded studies that not only suggest that it has some use, but that it may be the best thing available for a person suffering from the condition of opiate addiction. And outside of opiate addiction, things like depression, there are studies that show that not only do mushrooms and LSD and what have you have results in a person's happiness, but that in itself subtracts the requisite that the drug is a Schedule I felony, because for it to be a Schedule I felony, it has to have zero medical application. And if a government-funded study is going to say, hey, not only is that okay, but it may be simply the best, then how is that going to remain illegal when you're telling me it's not okay, but maybe the best? So, I don't know who to talk to about this, but it seems very clear that this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like I think what I would ideally like to envision within a future is almost sort of a combination between like native ceremonial traditions of like coming of age ceremonies where it would almost be expected of, say, like when a young man or woman is like 16, 17 or 18 years old, that they go through their first ceremony, whether it be with mushrooms or something.
Can I say something real quick?
Holy anointing oil.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
I took ayahuasca with a 9-year-old Machinga boy.
Really?
Native American, with his grandfather. It's not like me and him were just taking it.
Was it his first time?
His grandfather, Silverio. What's that?
Was it his first time? Yes or no?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it might not have been. Then that's probably even more impressive.
It may not have been his first time.
Yeah.
I've talked to young Machinga. Machinga is a group of Native Americans that live in Peru. I've talked to ones as young as 7 who've said they've done ayahuasca.
Wow.
But he took it with his grandfather. His grandfather was the shaman, and he was in the ceremony that me and my friends were in. And he was 9, and his friend was 11. And they seemed to handle it better than the gringos did.
Wow, that's impressive.
I just want to say that about in indigenous cultures, they tend to take psychoactives at very young ages, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, from that point of view, considering we don't really have the systems within our culture set up to sort of have these ceremonies, I can understand why these things are illegal. But, I mean, obviously, they're still taking place. People are still doing them, which I think is probably the way it's going to be for a while. But as these medical studies are continuing, the conversations are coming to the surface. And that's where we might start to see, like, actual clinics opening up where it will actually be acceptable for people to be treated with these in some sort of like medical supervision. And that's where there was actually just like a recent study done on like the benefits of LSD, and it was the first one done in 40 years because they had like outlawed it like after that. And now, again, so the conversations are starting to come up to the surface. So I was just kind of reading in the live chat, Mother Moon Love actually was saying that, like as whoever's making these things illegal, like they said that like they don't want us to heal because sickness is a business. So I mean, in itself, like there is a lot of money and stuff behind this. There's a lot of points to come at this from. But sorry, Scott, I think you had something to say, or maybe. Scott?
No. I just want to say just really quickly that there are.
I was going to go opiate addiction.
Real quick, hang on, Matt. I was going to say that there's already iboga centers in Canada and Mexico. However, it's illegal in the United States, so we don't have any here. But you can go to Mexico or Canada for iboga rehab. Go ahead, Max.
Okay, yeah, and you were saying it is a business, and we have such a expanded and just disproportionate medical system. We have a federal law requiring you to buy insurance now. And what's the best job for someone in the middle class coming of age? Probably in the nursing field. It's very, I say best job, but it's pretty common to find a large majority of youth going to nursing because it's a very guaranteed field, because there's so much jobs, because of the sickness we have as a culture. And why would we want to stop this sickness if it's employing these people?
Money.
So now that's another concept to look at. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Taylor.
As far as because I don't know, I haven't talked to a lot of other people. I haven't come in contact with them. I know they're out there, obviously, who have done the same thing as me and just done it all spiritual and been diagnosed. And I've been in the psych ward 4 times, dealing with these things, always been put on pills. So what direction? What can I do? Because my mission is obviously the same as everyone, to spread love and awaken everyone. But I have a passion for children and their innocence, and for them to know these things, that because everyone struggles with mental disorders. We're all schizophrenic. We're all bipolar.
Absolutely.
You know.
So dieting with a plant,
where do I
it's
begin?
just going to take care of itself.
Sorry, Taylor, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't hear that.
No, it's you, Taylor. Go ahead.
I don't know, I thought about modeling, I thought about singing, and I know it's not about the fame, it's more so about the message I'm trying to get out, obviously, but what do you guys suggest as far as spreading that message? Because I don't know.
Real quick, Max, let me
I'm
say
very
something.
new to all of this. I hope you guys all keep that in mind. I'm very new, I don't know a lot of terms, but you know that I already know everything. It's just a matter of researching myself and remembering.
Well, I want to say something real quick, and then I'll let Max take it over. I just want to say, don't believe them that you have to take these pills to be fixed or whatever. I know that they're doctors and they're professionals, but I just think it's absolute bullshit, the stuff that they tell people you have to take this pill or you're going to be crazy for the rest of your life. I just think that's absolutely not true.
I got something to help out that point for you.
Okay.
Instead of just going on the word bullshit as your reason to not believe.
Keep explaining that.
Okay. I was going to go with the reason they're prescribed is because you have a disorder, and disorder directly relates to your society and how you fit or don't fit into it. It's a disorder if it's stopping you from fitting in. Now, maybe the society is the disorder.
Whoa, man.
Well, I wanted to talk about brain plasticity and I want to say that taking antidepressants can actually inhibit your ability to change your mind and change your perception and have a better attitude. It actually, it can absolutely inhibit your ability to be happy.
I was a walking
and you'll
zombie.
be addicted to it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you take it for long enough.
My point of view, one thing I forgot to mention about the whole experience to me is that the way I explained it to my doctors and the way I explain it to anyone I meet, going further in layman's terms, I guess the best way I can put it is I was in such a deep, 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 dark place that the second I ate those mushrooms and saw the light, I immediately just shot straight to the freaking top, as high as I could go, and stayed there. And that was my problem. I was manic. They prescribed, I was bipolar. I was manic. They did the right thing. But I'd never for a minute in my life, ever since the first time I was a child and they tried to put me on antidepressants, I've always had for some reason, those are really just horrible, messed up things to me, and I've always thought that way ever since I was a kid, and now I know why. And so that's the way I describe it to people, is that we all need to be able to experience, and we're all humans for a reason, because we're supposed to experience that deep, deep low and that high, happy, and be able to find equilibrium and balance in them, because we are capable of that. We are powerful beyond measure, and that's what people don't understand, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all right.
This is really interesting, and I'll just share with you guys because last night in my dream, one thing in particular, I mean, with dreams, obviously those of you who are quite commonly like working with like the cannabis plant, be aware that it does affect dream recall. So if you're looking to become more aware, more like in sync with your dreams, then definitely just try cutting back on the cannabis use. But that aside, what I was just going to say though is that within my dream, from what I do remember, and this is why I'm sharing it, there was a part in my dream, and I was in like a supermarket, and when I was there was actually a girl in the supermarket, and she was having a conversation with her mom, and her mom was telling her that she needed to take these pills, and she was basically like just refusing it. She was like, "Fuck that, mom! Like I don't have to take this. Like I refuse to take those pills."
Oh my God, I know what you're talking
and it was
about.
just like, I know, and then it's like, I'm like, wait a second, isn't like this exactly? So this is, foreshadow, tapping into the future.
I was literally, that happened this summer. Like I was in a grocery store with my mom, and she was telling me that exact thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw the future right there, Taylor. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome.
That's freaking dope.
I like that you brought the subject here to dreaming because.
Or have we? Yeah, well, not verbally at least. We've all talked about it before.
You're right.
Max, go ahead. You wanted to talk about cannabis?
No, actually, I wanted to talk more about dreams and. Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was talking about dreams, and there's a category of things known as arenagens, dream generators, and those things. Again, I was talking previously about it doesn't matter if it's a dream or you're experiencing something fake, because you're going to take that moral compass with you, and it's going to further complicate yourself, and you're gonna grow and have compassion for everything that you're going to interact with from there. And these plants are really not illegal anywhere, as far as I know. And one, you're talking about things that inhibit dreams recollection. Cannabis, for example, hugely. For chronic users inhibits the dream recollection, but Calea zacatechii and Selena capensis are two arenagens that allow a person easier access to dream recollection. And what's more is because it's in the platform of your dreams, it's fully psychedelic in itself. And these plants are totally able to be, you can go on Amazon with like $10 and have something sent to your house in a couple of days, and all of a sudden start having this relationship with a plant, and maybe you'll grow it, and maybe you'll all of a sudden like start becoming a steward to nature simply because of this interesting experience. And that's just a whole other biophilic fractal in itself.
Yeah.
But, dreaming is just fantastic. There's the Xantl people of Mexico refer to Calea zacatechii. It's known as the bitter grass. They call it the leaf of God because of the impressive powers that the plant brings. And they would make a tea and smoke some and lay down. And one of the very common things is that you would feel your heartbeat in a way that you can almost hear your heartbeat, and it's going through your whole body. And having read that before, it's not that it was a preconceived notion that I experienced, but man, it was right on. It was very, very accurate. So it's working when you can like really feel the pulsations of your body. It cuts down on the REM sleep, but it increases the recollection of hypnagogic imagery, and it also has kind of bizarre effects on cats, though it is a bitter plant, and I don't know anything that really wants to ingest something bitter, so I make a water-soluble resin and then just take a little glob of that every now and then. And it's euphoric, similar to cannabis, but it lacks the paranoia aspect as well. So in combination with more visionary plants, for me, it allows me to like kind of bring more back from the other side, if you want to call it that, and it doesn't spur any sort of like dangerous paranoia because it lacks that aspect entirely. So it's comfortable and it potentiates and it allows you to recall more, so it allows you to have a deeper integration. And on its own, it has pretty majestic effects that are worthy of further investigation by anyone. And this is just Calea. I haven't investigated Selena capensis, which is native to Africa. Scott, go ahead.
I forgot.
Hey, what were you guys?
Kalea or Slin or something. Go ahead, Taylor. What were you gonna say?
Go ahead, Taylor. Yeah.
No, I was just I don't know a lot of like terms, or like I don't really I'm not very knowledgeable on other plants and natural healing remedies. I recently started I've still kind of had anxiety a little bit recently, I've noticed. So I started taking baths with lavender bath salts and using lavender scented lotion. That's been insanely what's the word I'm looking for? Helpful, I guess. But
try
you guys are talking about I'm back to the live chat, this Kalia. Will you guys like type in those plants you were mentioning so I can write them down and look more into them?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If we can, we've talked a lot about the psychoactive plants. Even if we can just sort of focus in on what sort of plants people might be able to look into if they're interested in things that may be able to assist in their dream recollection in some way or another.
Yes.
But at the same time, keeping in mind, this is one thing I always encourage people. Don't like use something with the intention of like allowing it to become a crutch. That can be a very dangerous thing. One thing, my experience with working with like dream tea, and I was going to ask you guys, is one known as a Goyasa, and I use it. Yeah, I use it for a bit, and I haven't used it before. And I mean, Guyusa, probably, yeah.
That's what we were just talking about.
Is that the same thing, just a different name, or?
Well,
unless that's a brand.
Let me do this one next.
Go for it.
Go ahead, yeah.
So I was talking earlier about the herbs that are used as purgatives in North America, and I mentioned Ilex vomitoriae. So Ilex Guyusa or Wayusa, often in the U.S. it comes under the brand name Runa, R-U-N-A, but it's a holly plant that contains caffeine. It's sometimes called the night watchman's herb because in the Amazon the night watchman will drink it, and he's said to be able to basically fall asleep but still be aware, that sort of thing. And it's said to cause dreams, but it also contains caffeine, along with other chemicals. But it's Ilex Guyusa, and it's another one of the plants that's used as a purgative, a ritual purgative in Ecuador, in eastern Ecuador. The natives there take Ilex Guyusa every morning. They take a very strong decoction of it, they drink it, and then they stick these little sticks that they have down their throat, and then they puke. And that's what they do every morning. But yeah, it's probably Ilex Guyusa that you're talking about, and it can be used for dreams. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. All right. We only got about 8 minutes left in the show.
Hit one last thing real quick.
Go ahead, guys. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. You're talking about things that people may be able to have in their life. Let me tell you about this plant called Syrian rue. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, it's cheap and it's readily available. And I'm sorry, Scott.
Latin name.
All right. Anyway, it's readily available and it's legal and safe. I mean, of course, we're not advocating anyone do anything that would harm themselves, and obviously, this is just from my own experience. It contains similar chemicals to what's found in the ayahuasca vine, not the plant that contains any DMT, but the vine that allows the DMT to be orally active. That's considered to be the force of the ayahuasca experience, and the DMT is simply to illuminate the message behind these other chemicals. Now, these chemicals can be found mostly in Syrian rue, which is really cheap and able to be had, but it greatly increases dream recollection and the psychedelic nature of dreams, as well as increasing the serotonin of your platelets up to 3 times. And that's anecdotal information from a study from 3-generation users of ayahuasca using people on their blood levels. And everyone knows that your serotonin level is hugely relevant to your feeling of well-being. So not only does it increase your dreams and regulate your sleep schedule and increase your well-being, but it's made of very similar chemicals that are already in your brain. And I just wanted to let you know, you can diet with that, and it kind of covers everything, but it's a good place to enter the world of dieting with plants. And that was my bit. I wanted to share that with everyone. Syrian rue. Go out, buy it, try it, love it.
To add to that really quickly, Syrian rue is Piganum harmala. It contains beta-carbolines or harmala alkaloids, similar to what's in ayahuasca. Not exactly what's in the ayahuasca vine, not the brew ayahuasca. It doesn't contain DMT, but it comes from the Middle East. It contains beta-carbolines, harmaline, tetrahydroharmine, and a couple other chemicals. And if you live in a big city and you have a population of Middle Eastern people, you actually might be able to go to the Middle Eastern grocery store or whatever and buy Syrian rue. It's used as a sort of an incense to keep the house clean and things like that. They'll burn it on some coal to keep the house clean. But likely this is derived from a much more ancient tradition of using Syrian rue as a psychoactive. And there's all sorts of theories about Syrian rue, that maybe it was the soma of the Rig Vedas, which is a whole other conversation. I won't even get into it, but since we don't have long. But it's possible it's the somas of the Rig Vedas, and it's a very powerful entheogen, and it's completely legal.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I will say there's obviously a lot more that we can talk about, and we will be continuing some of the conversation in the after party hangout. So for those of you who are tuned in to this episode live, you can continue and join in on this conversation by going to facebook.com/paradigmshiftradio, and shortly after this episode ends, I'll post the Google Hangout that you'll be able to join and get in on that. And with literally 5 minutes left in the show, obviously just thanking everybody for tuning into this. And of course, check out ParadigmShiftCentral.com, and in specific, check out the new newsletter. Definitely encouraging a lot of people to sign up for that. That will be a very effective way for us to give you all the latest updates and for us to be able to share all the conscious media that's happening through this project. And of course, if you'd like to be able to support the ongoing creation of conscious media and the evolution of this project, and you enjoy what it is helping provide and how it is helping change the world, then please consider signing up as a Paradigm Shift monthly supporter for literally just only a couple bucks a month, and you can do that by going to ParadigmShiftCentral.com/donate, and that definitely helps a lot. And of course, huge thank you to the people who are already synced up as the monthly supporters. And with that said, I'm going to do the draw, so I'm just going to literally just reach my hands into all the names here for the Paradigm Shift free buttons. And of course, you can order your buttons for yourself. Use the promo code PSR and get those at ParadigmShiftCentral.com/buttons. And those are incredibly useful things so that you can stand out on a street corner, give them to people, and not think that, not have people think that you're like super crazy or whatever, like what happened, Taylor. Okay, so the universe has chosen this week's winner for the shift buttons are Ariel Elizabeth. So Ariel has won the shift buttons for this week, and I will be sending her a message. So congratulations to Ariel. Woo! And again, with literally just 3 minutes left in the show, just passing this over to Scott and Mac. Just any final points that you just want to be able to share with people, just in the broader topic of why are these plants here? Why should we be interested in them? Anything that you want to share? Don't
be afraid to tell people or talk to people about this in open forums. Like, if you're going to church, just ask a question and see the responses that you get. Maybe someone out there gets turned on by your intrigue, and maybe it feeds back into you and it becomes a reciprocal growth. So continue networking and keep talking to people, keep trying to find answers, and that's what I had to say was don't be afraid to tell your crazy stories of what happened to you, so everyone can hear about, like, it doesn't matter because I found this place in my mind where there's goodness, and so that's what's really about.
Awesome.
Amen.
And Scott?
Yeah, I just want to say, thanks so much for having me on the show and letting me be here and transmit my message. And, I just want to say that wherever you are,
oh no, we're gonna blow up.
There's some wherever you are, there's some sort of indigenous knowledge that can be preserved, and it is dying. And we are the last generation that has the chance to record this indigenous knowledge. Really, even in most parts, it's only fragments now, but our children will just have the fragments of fragments. So the time is now to get out there, record this ancient indigenous knowledge, and revive these ancient traditions. And may the eagle fly with the condor again. And that's the prophecy of South America, that the ancient and the modern, the North and the South will be united, and that we'll all be one.
Nice. And
thanks.
Yeah, the revival of the archaic, we're all a part of it, definitely.
Exactly.
I'll pass it over to Taylor. Any last words that you just want to share with the people?
Oh, no, I mean, if you guys have any ideas about how to maybe start this up in Omaha, any support, any advice you can give me, because like I said, I'm definitely all new to this. It's within the past year that this has all happened to me, so any advice you guys have, I respect you guys tremendously,
Definitely.
And I just want to be a part of it and help all I can.
Definitely, and of course, just remind people, or I was going to say real quick, remind people, if you want to start up a paradigm shift community where you are, then just go to the main website and get synced up for that, and definitely be sure to join the after party. But yeah, just final words, and we're wrapping this up. So thanks again to everybody who has been a part of this episode. And Max, you had one last thing?
Yeah, just like I said, go out and
guys.
find more information and educate yourself, because that's, I mean, you can only trust your experience. So
that's
go out
right.
and have experiences.
Yeah, your experience is the most important one to being able to understand this reality, definitely. And Scott, if you want to post your link in the live chat to get people to connect with you. And yeah, any final words, guys?
Peace out. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Stay connected,
Bye.
guys. Thanks so much for having me on the show. And anybody, if you have any plant questions, feel free to ask me on Facebook. I'm putting a link in the live chat.
And come to Peru this May and April. And
yes. Seriously. You can do it for $2,000. Do it.
Oh, $2,000 is enough for like 3 months.
Nice. Yeah.
If you live frugally.
And we'll post
Yeah,
Scott.
I gotta get out of Nebraska.
We'll post Scott's link to the group that he's got too. We'll post. So anybody looking to get in contact with Scott, you can find him at facebook.com/scott.lite, I believe. Mm-hmm. And definitely you've got a link to a hangout group, like a discussion group on Facebook, and we'll include that in the show notes. So you can find the show notes through the YouTube version of this episode once it's online. So with that said, we are wrapping this episode up now and continuing the conversation in the after party, which we encourage you to also check out. So yeah, thank you, of course, everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you in the future. So if you guys want to join me in saying farewell to the internet as I play the outro music. So farewell, internet.
Bye, guys.
Bye for now, internet.
Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
Be humble, play it smart, respect Mother Nature.
This is the like walkout cool jazz music.
Yeah. Alright, thanks guys. Talk to you later. One love.
Bananas.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Paradigm Shift Radio. If you would like to connect with people where you are and continue the conversations further, then check out paradigmshiftcentral.com/buttons to order your supply of shift buttons to share with people to help invite them to this global project while also helping make new friends and building local community where you are. Shift buttons are tools to hack the matrix and tap into the synchronistic nature of reality to accelerate our collective awakening. Enter the promo code PSR into your order to receive additional bonus buttons to your supply. Thank you again, and one love.